The unlikely encounter. The crumbling remnants of Chicago's skyline loomed against the blood-red sky, a stark reminder of the day everything changed. Aria crouched in the shadows of a dilapidated building, her eyes scanning the desolate street for any sign of movement. At 17, she had already lived half her life in this post-invasion world, where survival was a daily battle against both alien occupiers and desperate humans. A cool breeze ruffled Aria's tangled brown hair, carrying with it the acrid scent of decay that never seemed to fade. Her stomach growled, a persistent reminder of how long it had been since her last meal. With a deep breath, she adjusted the worn backpack on her shoulders and darted across the street, her footsteps eerily loud in the abandoned city. The local mall, once a bustling center of human activity, now stood as a hollow shell. Aria slipped through a gap in the boarded-up entrance, her eyes adjusting to the dimness inside. Broken glass crunched beneath her feet as she made her way through the maze of empty storefronts, searching for anything of value that might have been overlooked by previous scavengers. As she rummaged through a pile of debris, a distant crash echoed through the building. Aria froze, her heart pounding. She wasn't alone. Silently, she crept towards the source of the noise, her hand tightening around the makeshift knife at her belt. A shard of metal lashed to a piece of wood. Rounding a corner, Aria gasped at the sight before her. Sprawled amid the wreckage of what was once a food court was an alien unlike any she had seen before. Its body was sleek and reptilian, covered in iridescent scales that shimmered even in the dim light. But what caught Aria's attention was the dark, viscous liquid pooling beneath it. Alien blood. The creature's head snapped up, its golden eyes locking onto Aria. She stumbled backward, her knife held out in front of her. The alien let out a low, rumbling growl, but made no move to attack. Instead, it tried to rise, only to collapse back to the ground with a pained hiss. Aria's mind raced. This wasn't one of the gray, spindly beings that had invaded Earth. This alien was clearly a predator, muscular, and armed with wicked-looking claws. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to leave this dangerous creature to its fate. But something held her in place. Curiosity, perhaps, or a deeper sense of empathy she thought she had lost long ago. "You're hurt," Aria found herself saying, her voice hoarse from disuse. The alien's eyes narrowed, studying her with an unsettling intelligence. To her shock, a voice resonated in her mind, deep and gravelly. "Human, you should flee. I am not safe." Aria blinked, momentarily stunned by the telepathic communication. You can talk." "My kind does not need crude vocal cords to communicate," the alien replied, its mental voice tinged with pain. And was that amusement? Slowly, Aria lowered her knife. "What are you? You're not like the others." The alien's scales rippled, changing color slightly. "I am Zexarna, a Vexari. Your world's invaders are our enemies as well." Aria's mind whirled with this new information. An alien race fighting against Earth's invaders. It seemed too good to be true. "Why should I believe you?" Zexarna attempted to move again, only to let out another pained hiss. "Believe what you will, human. I care not. Leave me to die with dignity." The alien's words stirred something in Aria, a memory of her mother's voice, teaching her that compassion was what separated humans from beasts. With a deep breath, she made a decision that would change everything. "No," Aria said firmly, approaching the injured alien. "I'm going to help you." Zexarna's eyes widened in surprise. "You are either very brave or very foolish, young human." Aria managed a small smile. "Maybe a bit of both. My name is Aria. Now let me take a look at that wound." As she knelt beside the massive alien, Aria's mind raced with the implications of her choice. She was putting her trust in a creature that could easily kill her, gambling on the hope that there might be more to this invasion than she knew. But as she began to clean Zexarna's wound with supplies from her pack, Aria felt a glimmer of something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Arya worked tirelessly to treat Zexarna's injury, a deep gash that ran along the alien side. She used what little medical knowledge she had gleaned from scavenged books and her own experiences, grateful that alien physiology wasn't too dissimilar from Earth's reptiles. As she worked, Zexarna shared more about the Vexari and their conflict with the invaders, whom he called the Grakil. Arya learned of vast interstellar wars, of planets destroyed and species enslaved. Earth, it seemed, was just the latest battleground in a conflict that spanned galaxies. "But why didn't you come to help us?" Arya asked, her voice tinged with bitterness. "Billions died when the Grakil came." Zexarna's mental voice was somber. "We did not know. The Grakil are cunning. They shielded your world from our sensors. By the time we discovered their presence here, much of the damage was done." Arya absorbed this information in silence, her hand steady as she finished bandaging Zexarna's wound. The sun had long since set, leaving the mall in near total darkness. "We should move," she said finally. "It's not safe to stay in one place for too long." Zexarna nodded, slowly rising to his feet. He towered over Arya, his muscular form a reminder of the predator he was. Yet there was no menace in his golden eyes as he looked down at her. "You have shown great courage and skill, Arya of Earth. I am in your debt." Arya felt a warmth in her chest at the praise. "We're not out of danger yet. Can you walk?" "I can manage," Zexarna replied, though Arya noted the slight tremor in his legs. Together, the unlikely pair made their way through the dark mall, Arya leading them towards one of her safe houses, a fortified storage room she had stocked with supplies. As they moved, Arya's mind raced with questions and possibilities. If Zexarna was telling the truth, it meant humanity wasn't alone in its fight against the invaders. But it also meant the conflict was far larger and more complex than she had ever imagined. As they reached the safe house, Arya turned to look at her alien companion. In the dim light, Zexarna's scales shimmered with an almost hypnotic beauty. She realized with a start that she no longer felt fear in his presence, only a growing sense of companionship. "Get some rest," she told him, gesturing to a makeshift bed. "Tomorrow, we figure out our next move." As Zexarna settled down, his mental voice reached out to her once more. "Arya, thank you. Perhaps there is hope for our peoples yet." Arya smiled, feeling for the first time in years that she was part of something greater than just survival. As she drifted off to sleep, her dreams were filled with visions of stars, distant worlds, and the promise of a future where humans and aliens fought side by side against a common enemy. The unlikely alliance forged in the ruins of Chicago was just the beginning. Arya and Zexarna's journey would take them across a ravaged Earth and beyond, challenging everything they thought they knew about each other's species. But for now, in the quiet darkness of the safe house, a small spark of hope had been kindled, one that would soon grow into a flame bright enough to light the way forward for both their races. Building trust. The first rays of dawn filtered through the cracks in the boarded-up windows, casting long shadows across the safe house. Arya stirred, her hand instinctively reaching for her knife, before remembering the events of the previous day. She sat up quickly, her eyes darting to where she had left Zexarna. The alien predator was already awake, his golden eyes regarding her with a mixture of curiosity and respect. "You sleep deeply for one who lives in constant danger," his mental voice resonated in her mind. Arya shrugged, stretching out the kinks in her muscles. "Years of practice. How's your wound?" Zexarna shifted, his scales rippling with the movement. "Healing. Your treatment was surprisingly effective." "Don't sound so shocked," Arya replied with a hint of a smile. "Humans are tougher than we look." As they shared a meager breakfast of scavenged rations, Arya's mind buzzed with questions. "So these Grakil," she began, breaking the silence. "What exactly do they want with Earth?" Zexarna's mental voice took on a grave tone. "Resources, primarily. Your world is rich in minerals and biological diversity. But more than that, They seek to harvest the very life force of your planet. Aria's brow furrowed. Life force. What does that mean? Every living world has an energy, a vibration that sustains it, Zexarna explained. The Grokil have developed technology to extract and weaponize this energy. They leave worlds as lifeless husks in their wake. A chill ran down Aria's spine. That's why the plants have been dying. Why the seasons are all messed up. They're killing the planet itself. Zexarna nodded solemnly. Your understanding is correct. But there is hope. The Vexeri have been developing countermeasures. With the right information, we may be able to stop the extraction process. Aria leaned forward, her eyes shining with newfound purpose. What do you need? Access to a Grokil command center, Zexarna replied. There we can gather intelligence on their operations and potentially sabotage their efforts. Aria's mind raced. She knew of a Grokil outpost not far from the city, one she had scouted but never dared to approach. I think I know a place, she said slowly. But it's heavily guarded. We'd need a plan. As they began to discuss strategy, a distant explosion rocked the building. Aria was on her feet in an instant, peering through a gap in the boards. In the street below, she saw a group of human resistance fighters engaged in a firefight with Grokil patrols. We have to move, Aria hissed, gathering her supplies. If either side finds us here, we're dead. Zexarna rose, his imposing form filling the small room. I can fight, he stated, flexing his claws. Aria shook her head. Not yet. You're still healing, and we can't risk drawing attention. Our best bet is to slip away unnoticed. As they made their way through the back alleys of the ruined city, Aria couldn't help but marvel at how quickly she had come to trust this alien predator. Zexarna moved with a fluid grace despite his injury, his senses alert for any danger. They had almost reached the outskirts of the city when a shout rang out. Halt! Identify yourselves. Aria froze, her heart pounding. A group of human resistance fighters had emerged from a nearby building, their weapons trained on her and Zexarna. Wait, Aria called out, raising her hands. We're not your enemies. One of the fighters, a grizzled man with a scared face, stepped forward. Girl, you're standing next to a damn alien. Give me one good reason why we shouldn't shoot you both right now. Aria's mind raced. She knew how this must look to the resistance. A human girl seemingly allied with an alien predator. But she also knew that this could be an opportunity to gain valuable allies. Because we have information that could turn the tide of the war, she said firmly, meeting the man's gaze. This is Zexarna. He's a Vexari, and his people are fighting against the Grokil, the aliens who invaded Earth. The resistance fighters exchanged skeptical glances. The leader's eyes narrowed. And why should we believe that? Zexarna stepped forward, his mental voice projecting to all present. Because I can show you the truth. Before anyone could react, Zexarna's scales began to glow. A holographic display sprung to life around them, showing images of vast space battles, Vexeri ships engaging Grokil fleets, and devastated worlds slowly being restored. The resistance fighters lowered their weapons, awe and confusion warring on their faces. The leader, still wary but clearly intrigued, gestured for Aria and Zexarna to follow. Come with us. We need to talk. As they were led to a hidden resistance base, Aria felt a mix of relief and apprehension. She glanced at Zexarna, who gave her a slight nod of reassurance. They were walking into unknown territory, but at least they were walking in together. The resistance base was a marvel of human ingenuity, a network of underground tunnels and repurposed subway stations. As they were escorted deeper into the complex, Aria saw signs of a thriving community, hydroponics gardens, makeshift workshops, and even a school for children. They were brought to a command center where a diverse group of resistance leaders had gathered. The grizzled man who had first confronted them, introduced as Commander Reeves, addressed the room. All right, you two. You've got our attention. Now tell us everything. For the next few hours, Aria, and Zex Arna shared their story and everything they knew about the Grackil invasion and the larger galactic conflict. The resistance leaders listened intently, their expressions ranging from disbelief to cautious hope. When they finished, a tense silence fell over the room. Finally, a woman with close-cropped gray hair spoke up. "If what you're saying is true, it changes everything. But how can we be sure this isn't some elaborate Grackil trap?" Zex Arna's mental voice was steady as he replied. "I understand your caution. In your position, I too would be skeptical. But consider this. If the Grackil wanted to infiltrate your resistance, why would they create such an unbelievable story? Why not simply pose as human survivors?" The woman nodded slowly, conceding the point. Commander Reeves leaned forward, his scared face intense. "All right, let's say we believe you. What's your plan?" Arya took a deep breath. "We need to infiltrate a Grackil command center. With Zex Arna's knowledge and your resources, we might be able to disrupt their operations and maybe even contact the Vexari fleet." A ripple of excited murmurs swept through the room. Commander Reeves held up a hand for silence. "It's risky as hell, but it might be our best shot. We've been hitting Grackil patrols for years, but we've never had a chance to strike at their command structure." As the resistance leaders began to discuss logistics and strategy, Arya felt a surge of hope. For the first time since the invasion, humanity had a real chance to fight back. Later, as Arya and Zex Arna were shown to quarters where they could rest, the alien turned to her. "You have done well, Arya of Earth. Your courage and quick thinking have won us valuable allies." Arya smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest at the praise. "We make a good team," she replied. "Who would have thought a human girl and an alien predator could work so well together?" Zex Arna's mental voice held a note of amusement. "Perhaps it is not so strange. After all, both our species have survived by adapting to challenges. Together, we may yet adapt to overcome this greatest of threats." As Arya drifted off to sleep that night, her dreams were filled with visions of a future where humans and Vexari fought side by side, reclaiming Earth and pushing back against the Grackil menace. The path ahead would be dangerous, but for the first time in years, Arya felt something she had almost forgotten: hope. The unlikely alliance between a human girl and an alien predator had set in motion events that would reshape the fate of two species and perhaps the entire galaxy. As dawn broke on a new day, Arya and Zex Arna prepared to take the first steps on a journey that would test their trust, challenge their beliefs, and ultimately determine the future of Earth itself. Flight and fight. The pre-dawn air was crisp and heavy with tension as Arya, Zex Arna, and a small team of resistance fighters made their way through the ruins of Chicago's outskirts. Their destination: a Grackil command post disguised as an abandoned factory on the city's edge. Arya's heart pounded as she moved silently alongside Zex Arna, marveling at how the massive alien could move with such stealth. She glanced at the resistance fighters, a mix of hardened veterans and young idealists, and saw a combination of determination and fear in their eyes. This mission could change everything, but the risks were enormous. As they approached the factory, Zex Arna suddenly tensed. His mental voice resonated urgently in Arya's mind. "Wait, something's wrong." The team froze, taking cover behind the skeletal remains of rusted-out vehicles. Arya peered around the edge of a truck, her eyes straining in the dim light. At first, she saw nothing unusual, but then she noticed a faint shimmer in the air around the factory. "Cloaking field," Zex Arna explained, his mental voice grim. "Far more advanced than what should be here. This is not a simple command post." Commander Reeves crawled up beside them, his face etched with concern. "What are we dealing with?" Zex Arna's scales rippled with agitation. "If I'm correct, this is a primary nexus for their planetary extraction operation. The security will be formidable." Arya's mind raced. This changed everything. The risks were even greater, but so were the potential rewards. She turned to Reeves. We need to abort, regroup, and come up with a new plan. But before Reeves could respond, a piercing alarm shattered the pre-dawn silence. Lights flared to life around the factory, and the air was suddenly filled with the whine of energy weapons powering up. "We've been detected," Zexarna roared, his mental voice echoing in everyone's minds. "Prepare for combat." Chaos erupted as Grakil forces poured out of the factory. Arya had seen the spindly gray aliens before, but never in such numbers. They moved with eerie coordination, their weapons spitting bolts of sickly green energy. The resistance fighters scattered, returning fire with their makeshift weaponry. Arya found herself back-to-back with Zexarna, her salvaged assault rifle feeling woefully inadequate against the alien onslaught. "We need to get inside," Arya shouted over the din of battle. "If this really is their extraction nexus, we can't let this opportunity slip away." Zexarna nodded, his powerful form coiled and ready to spring. "Agreed, but we'll need a distraction." As if on cue, a massive explosion rocked the battlefield. Arya turned to see Commander Reeves standing atop a ruined car, hefting a rocket launcher. "Go," he bellowed. "We'll hold them off." Arya hesitated for a split second, torn between her mission and her desire to help the resistance fighters. But Zexarna was already moving, and she knew their chance wouldn't last long. With a silent prayer for her newfound allies, she sprinted after the alien predator. They weaved through the chaos of battle, Zexarna's claws tearing through any Grakil that got too close. Arya provided covering fire, her shots more lucky than precise in the mayhem. As they neared the factory entrance, a Grakil soldier lunged at Arya, its elongated fingers reaching for her throat. Time seemed to slow. Arya's rifle clicked empty, and she knew she couldn't dodge in time. But then Zexarna was there, his massive form interposing between her and the Grakil. With a savage roar that echoed in both her mind and her ears, Zexarna tore the enemy alien apart. For a moment, their eyes met. Arya saw something fierce and protective in Zexarna's golden gaze, and she realized with a start that the alien predator had come to care for her as much as she had for him. There was no time for words. They burst through the factory doors, leaving the sounds of battle behind. Inside, they found a labyrinth of advanced alien technology, pulsing with an otherworldly energy that made Arya's skin crawl. "The extraction core," Zexarna said, pointing to a massive cylindrical structure at the center of the facility. "If we can disable it, we might be able to halt their entire operation on this continent." As they approached the core, Arya's mind whirled with the implications. This wasn't just about gathering intelligence anymore. They had a chance to strike a real blow against the Grakil. But before they could reach the core, a new voice, cold and alien, filled their minds. Fascinating. A human and a Vexari working together. How? Unexpected. A figure materialized before them. A Grakil, but unlike any Arya had seen before. This one was taller, its gray skin mottled with patterns that seemed to shift and change. Its eyes were pools of swirling darkness that made Arya's head hurt to look at directly. "I am Nexera, overseer of this extraction operation," the alien announced. "And you, little beings, have made a grave mistake in coming here." Zexarna pushed Arya behind him, his mental voice a snarl of defiance. "The only mistake was yours. Grakil filth. You underestimated the strength of those you sought to conquer." Nexera's laughter was like ice in Arya's mind. "Strength? You speak of strength." The alien gestured, and suddenly Arya and Zexarna were lifted off their feet, held in place by an invisible force. "Let me show you true strength." Pain lanced through Arya's body, and she could feel Zexarna's agony echoing in her mind. But amidst the torment, she felt something else, a connection, deeper than anything she had experienced before. In that moment of shared suffering, the bond between human and Vexari grew stronger, more profound. With a Herculean effort, Arya reached out and grasped Zexarna's clawed hand. As their fingers intertwined, a surge of energy passed between them. Arya gasped as knowledge flooded her mind. Vexari battle techniques, the intricacies of their technology, and most importantly, the key to disrupting Grakil's psychic abilities. Acting on instinct, Arya focused her will, imagining a shield around herself and Zexarna. To her amazement, the pain receded and they dropped to the ground, free from Nyxera's hold. The Grakil overseer stumbled back, its swirling eyes wide with shock. Impossible. How did you? But Arya and Zexarna were already moving. With a shared purpose that transcended words, they attacked in perfect synchronization. Arya's newly acquired knowledge guided her movements, while Zexarna's raw power smashed through the Overseer's defenses. In a matter of moments, Nyxera lay defeated at their feet. Arya stood over the fallen Grakil, her mind reeling from the impossible feat they had just accomplished. How? How did we do that? Zexarna's mental voice was filled with wonder and pride. The bond between us, it has grown into something my people thought only legend. A true symbiosis of minds and spirits. Before Arya could process this revelation, alarms blared throughout the facility. The extraction core was going critical, destabilized by the psychic backlash of their battle. "We need to get out of here," Arya said urgently. "This whole place is going to blow." As they raced back through the facility, Arya's mind was o'hurl with new possibilities. The connection she now shared with Zexarna had changed everything. She understood now why the Grakil feared the alliance between humans and Vexari. Together, they were far more than the sum of their parts. They burst out of the factory just as the first explosions began to rock the structure. The battlefield outside had changed. More resistance fighters had arrived, turning the tide against the Grakil forces. As Arya and Zexarna rejoined their allies, a cheer went up from the human ranks. Commander Reeves approached, his face streaked with soot and blood, but his eyes shining with triumph. "Whatever you two did in there, it worked." The Grakil are in full retreat across the entire region. As the sun rose over the liberated Chicago, Arya looked up at Zexarna, a smile playing on her lips. "So, partner, what's our next move?" Zexarna's mental voice was warm with affection and excitement. "The real battle has only just begun, Arya of Earth. But together, I believe we can accomplish anything." The unlikely pair stood side by side, human and alien, united in purpose and spirit. They had struck a major blow against the Grakil, but both knew this was only the beginning. The road ahead would be fraught with danger, but with their newfound bond and the growing alliance between their peoples, hope burned brighter than ever before. As news of their victory spread, humans and Vexari alike would look to Arya and Zexarna as symbols of what could be achieved through cooperation and understanding. The fate of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy, now rested in the hands of a girl who had dared to befriend a predator, and an alien who had learned the true meaning of humanity. The hidden colony. The weeks following the destruction of the Grakil extraction nexus were a whirlwind of activity. News of the victory spread like wildfire through the resistance networks, igniting hope in the hearts of humans who had long since given up. Arya and Zexarna found themselves at the center of it all, their unlikely partnership a beacon of possibility in a world that had known only despair. As they traveled from one resistance stronghold to another, Arya marveled at how quickly humans adapted to Zexarna's presence. Initial fear gave way to curiosity, and soon the alien predator was fielding endless questions about Vexari culture and technology. One evening, as they sat around a campfire with a group of resistance fighters, Zexarna's mental voice reached out to Arya privately. "Your people's resilience continues to amaze me. Even after all they've endured, they still hunger for knowledge." Arya smiled, feeling a swell of pride. "It's what makes us human. We never stop trying to understand the world around us." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a breathless scout. "Commander," the young man gasped, "we've picked up a signal. You're going to want to see this." They followed the scout to a makeshift communications center, where a crackling transmission played on a salvaged monitor. The message was fragmented, but its content was clear. Somewhere in the Rocky Mountains, a hidden colony of humans and aliens was fighting back against the Grakil. Excitement rippled through the gathered resistance members. Arya turned to Zex Arna, her eyes shining. "We have to find them. If there are more aliens fighting alongside humans, it could change everything." Zex Arna nodded, his scales shifting in a pattern Arya had come to recognize as agreement. "Indeed, but the journey will be perilous. The Grakil will not have overlooked such a stronghold." Commander Reeves stepped forward, his face set with determination. "We'll provide whatever support we can. This could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for." 2 days later, Arya and Zex Arna set out with a small team of resistance fighters. Their journey took them across a landscape transformed by alien occupation. Once verdant plains were now ashen wastelands, and forests stood as petrified sentinels, their life drained by Grakil extraction technology. As they neared the Rocky Mountains, the team encountered increasing Grakil patrols. Arya and Zex Arna's bond proved invaluable, allowing them to coordinate their movements with uncanny precision. More than once, Arya found herself drawing on Vexari combat techniques she had never been taught, the knowledge flowing through their shared connection. It was during one such skirmish that they encountered something unexpected. As Arya ducked behind a boulder to avoid enemy fire, she locked eyes with a figure that was neither human nor Grakil. The being was tall and willowy, with iridescent skin that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. "Zex," Arya called out mentally, their bond allowing for instantaneous communication. "Are you seeing this?" Zex Arna's surprise echoed through their link. "An illusion. I had no idea any had survived the fall of their homeworld." The mysterious alien raised a hand, and suddenly the air around them shimmered. The Grakil patrol stumbled, their movements becoming sluggish and uncoordinated. Taking advantage of the distraction, Arya and her team quickly dispatched the enemy. As the dust settled, the illusion approached. Its voice, when it spoke, seemed to bypass Arya's ears entirely, resonating directly in her mind. "You are the ones we have been waiting for. Come, the sanctuary awaits." Led by their new ally, the team made their way deeper into the mountains. After hours of treacherous climbing, they crested a ridge and gasped at the sight before them. Nestled in a hidden valley was a thriving community unlike anything Arya had seen since the invasion. Domed structures of advanced design blended seamlessly with the natural landscape. Fields of crops stretched out in terraced plots, tended by humans working alongside a diverse array of alien species. In the center of it all stood a massive tree, its branches reaching towards the sky, glowing with an ethereal light. "Welcome," the Elysian said, "to the last bastion of the galactic Concordat." As they entered the hidden colony, Arya and Zex Arna were overwhelmed by the diversity around them. Humans mingled freely with aliens of all shapes and sizes, their interactions marked by a sense of easy camaraderie that seemed almost surreal after years of conflict. They were led to a central chamber within the great tree, where a council of leaders, both human and alien, awaited them. An elderly woman with steel-gray hair stepped forward, her eyes twinkling with wisdom and warmth. "I am Dr. Elena Vasquez," she said, her voice carrying the weight of authority. "On behalf of the sanctuary, I welcome you. We've been following your exploits with great interest." Arya and Zex Arna shared a glance, their bond thrumming with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. They recounted their story, from their unlikely first meeting to the destruction of the Grakil extraction nexus. As they finished, a ripple of murmurs passed through the assembled council. Dr. Vasquez leaned forward, her expression intense. "What you've achieved is remarkable. The bond you share, it's the key we've been searching for." She went on to explain that the sanctuary had been established years before the Grakil invasion, a secret project aimed at fostering interspecies cooperation. When Earth fell under attack, it became a refuge for humans, and aliens alike who sought to resist the Grokil. But we've been limited in what we could accomplish, Dr. Vasquez continued. The Grokil's psychic abilities have always given them an edge, until now. An alien that Area recognized as a Vexari elder stepped forward. The symbiosis you and Zex Arna have achieved was once thought to be merely legend among our people. It has the potential to turn the tide of this war. Area felt a weight settling on her shoulders. What exactly are you asking of us? Dr. Vasquez's eyes softened. We're asking you to teach others, to show them how to forge the kind of bond you share. With an army of human Vexari symbionts, we could strike at the heart of the Grokil occupation. Zexarna's mental voice was thoughtful. It will not be easy. Our bond was forged through unique circumstances. But it's not impossible, Area interjected, feeling the surge of determination. If we could do it, others can too. We have to try. As discussions continued late into the night, Area found herself drawn to the base of the glowing tree. She placed a hand on its trunk, marveling at the warm, living energy she felt pulsing beneath its bark. Zexarna joined her, his presence a comforting warmth in her mind. Are you ready for this, Area of Earth? To become teachers, leaders in a war that spans galaxies. Area took a deep breath, looking out over the sanctuary, this impossible melting pot of species united in common cause. She thought of all they had endured, all they had accomplished, and all that still lay ahead. I'm ready, she said, her voice firm with resolve. Together, we'll show them what's possible when we put aside our differences and stand united. As they stood there, human and Vexari, their silhouettes backlit by the glow of the great tree, Area felt a sense of purpose stronger than anything she had known before. The path ahead would be challenging, filled with dangers they could scarcely imagine. But with Zexarna by her side and the combined strength of the sanctuary behind them, Area knew that hope was no longer just a distant dream. It was a promise of a future where the bonds between species would prove stronger than any force the Grokil could muster. And it all began with the unlikely friendship between a human girl and an alien predator, a testament to the incredible potential that lay in understanding and embracing those different from ourselves. Turning the tide. The months that followed were a whirlwind of activity within the sanctuary. Area and Zexarna found themselves at the center of an unprecedented experiment in interspecies cooperation. Under their guidance, humans and Vexari began the arduous process of forging symbiotic bonds. It wasn't easy. Many attempts ended in frustration or failure. The process required a level of trust and openness that was difficult to achieve, especially given the lingering fears and prejudices on both sides. But with each successful pairing, hope grew stronger. Area stood on a balcony overlooking the training grounds, watching as a young human woman and a Vexari warrior moved in perfect synchronization, their minds and bodies acting as one. She felt a swell of pride at how far they had come. Zexarna's mental voice echoed in her mind, warm with affection. You've done well, Area. They learned quickly. She smiled, leaning against her alien partner's solid form. We've done well. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Their moment of reflection was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Vasquez, her face grave. We've received word from our scouts. The Grokil are massing for a major offensive. They know we're here. Area's heart raced. They had known this day would come, but the reality of it still sent a shiver down her spine. How long do we have? Days at most, Dr. Vasquez replied. We need to evacuate the non-combatants and prepare our defenses. As the sanctuary erupted into a flurry of activity, Area and Zexarna found themselves in the war room with the other leaders. Maps and holographic displays showed the approaching Grokil forces, a vast armada that dwarfed anything they had faced before. The Elysian leader, Naya, spoke up, her ethereal voice tinged with concern. Their numbers are too great. Even with our combined forces, a direct confrontation would be suicide. Zexarna's mental voice resonated with determination. Then we must strike at their heart, cut off the head, and the body will fall. Area nodded, an idea forming. The Grakil flagship. If we can infiltrate it and take out their leadership, we might be able to throw their entire force into disarray. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. It was a desperate plan with little chance of success. But as they looked at the overwhelming odds against them, they realized it might be their only hope. Dr. Vasquez straightened, her eyes glinting with resolve. Very well. We'll buy you as much time as we can. The fate of Earth, of all our peoples, rests in your hands. As dawn broke on the day of battle, Aria stood with Zex Arna and a small team of human Vexari symbionts. They had volunteered for what was essentially a suicide mission, knowing full well they might never return. Aria addressed the group, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her gut. What we do today will echo through history. No matter what happens, remember that we fight not just for Earth, but for the freedom of all sentient beings. With final farewells said, they boarded a small, stealthed ship. As they rose through the atmosphere, Aria caught a last glimpse of the sanctuary, a beacon of hope hidden in the mountains. She silently vowed to see it again. The battle was already raging as they approached the Grakil Armada. Sanctuary forces, bolstered by the newly formed symbiont pairs, were putting up a fierce resistance, but the sheer numbers of the Grakil were overwhelming. Using the chaos of the battle as cover, Aria and her team maneuvered towards the massive Grakil flagship. At the last moment, they were spotted. Enemy fire rocked their small craft, sending them spiraling towards the larger ship. Brace for impact, Aria shouted, gripping Zex Arna's arm as they crashed through the flagship's outer hull. Alarms blared as they stumbled from the wreckage. The team quickly oriented themselves, fighting off waves of Grakil soldiers as they pushed deeper into the ship. The human Vexari symbionts moved with uncanny coordination, their combined abilities making them formidable opponents. As they neared the ship's central command, they encountered heavier resistance. Aria and Zex Arna fought back to back, their bond allowing them to anticipate each other's moves with perfect precision. But the endless waves of enemies were taking their toll. Finally, they breached the command center. There, surrounded by banks of alien technology, stood the supreme overseer of the Grakil invasion force. The alien was massive, its form shimmering with psychic energy that made Aria's head spin. Foolish creatures, the overseer's voice boomed in their minds. Did you really think you could challenge the might of the Grakil Empire? Aria stepped forward, her voice unwavering. We're not just challenging it. We're going to end it. What followed was a battle unlike any Aria had experienced. The Overseer's psychic attacks battered their defenses, threatening to overwhelm them. But the bond between human and Vexari proved stronger. Working in perfect harmony, Aria and Zex Arna pushed back, their combined will a battering ram against the Overseer's defenses. In a final, desperate lunge, Zex Arna's claws found their mark. The Overseer fell, its psychic scream echoing through the ship. Aria quickly accessed the command controls, using the knowledge gleaned from their shared consciousness to initiate a shutdown sequence. It's done, she breathed, watching as the Grakil ships around them began to power down. We've won. As news of the Overseer's defeat spread, the Grakil forces fell into disarray. Without the central command, their coordinated assault crumbled. The tide of battle turned, with Earth's defenders pushing the invaders back on all fronts. In the years that followed, Earth became a beacon of interspecies cooperation. The sanctuary grew into a thriving metropolis, a shining example of what could be achieved when different races worked together. Humans and Vexari continued to form symbiotic bonds, their combined abilities helping to rebuild the planet and reach out to the stars. Aria and Zex Arna, hailed as heroes, chose to continue their journey. They traveled from world to world, helping other species resist Grakil occupation and fostering understanding between different races. As they stood on the bridge of their own ship, preparing to embark on a new adventure, Aria looked up at her alien partner and friend. Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this when you crash-landed on Earth? Zexarna's mental laughter filled her mind. Never. But I wouldn't change it for anything. Aria smiled, her hand resting on the ship's controls. Neither would I. So, partner, where to next? As their ship streaked into the star-filled sky, Aria knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The unlikely friendship between a human girl and an alien predator had not only saved Earth, but had opened up a galaxy of possibilities. And their story, a testament to the power of understanding and cooperation, would be told for generations to come.